Welcome to the Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup Podcast. Expert knowledge delivered with compassion and empathy with your host, counselor and trauma recovery coach, ajmahari. To purchase and book sessions with AJ, go to ajmahari.ca. And now your host, AJ Mahari.
Your BPD girlfriend wants space, or your BPD boyfriend. It's a slow split to devaluation and ghosting when they announce that they need space. And he or she might say something like, I just need a few days. I just need a couple weeks. I just need a couple months. Okay? But unlike what you can see out there in a lot of information that isn't particularly geared specifically to BPD relationships and the breakups and the ghosting and the cycling and all of this, you can see people out there saying, well, you know, if your girlfriend wants space, just give her space because she'll come back and it'll be okay. Well, in healthy relationships and people who don't have BPD and partners that aren't codependent, that can all work out in a different way. But usually, in healthy relationships, you know, even if it's like a dating relationship, partner isn't going to need, let alone 2 days, 2 weeks or 2 months of space. Because what does that really indicate? They are not sure what they're experiencing, women or men with BPD, in this I need space scenario. So they're wanting space because it's a slow split to devaluation and ghosting. And it might be something that you've experienced already many, many times, and your person with BPD has a cycle, and maybe it's 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, 5 days, maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks. Could be as long as a month or longer. But what you've experienced when your BPD girlfriend or boyfriend, but girlfriend primarily I'm talking about here, wants space, then you may have been through many of these cycles, and then maybe you contacted them one time and they responded. Maybe they just contacted you out of the blue. Maybe this is the first time that maybe a person with BPD expressed to you, I just need space. I just need this time, 2 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month, or 2 months, or longer. All various amounts of time they might suggest that they need. And the thing is, if this is the first time for you, like you're wondering, like, what's going on here? Because this doesn't happen in healthy relationships. In healthy relationships where there isn't like a person with BPD and often untreated, and a person with codependency who needs their own healing and recovery journey as well. But it's not on you as the partner or the codependent or the boyfriend or the girlfriend. When they need this space, there's nothing you can do about it. And you might be really panicked and you might be really confused. And the first time it happens, you know, people are like, is this a breakup? Is this like they're just dumping me? Am I ever going to hear from them again? And the answers to those questions, there is no one-size-fits-all answer because for some people with BPD, yeah, they might just be gone. And they're never going to hoover you. And if you try to hoover them, they're not going to reply. And then there's many other people with BPD that they might come back or they might not. You might re-engage in communication and that might lead nowhere. Or sometimes people do recycle, re-engage, start the relationship again or carry on. And in which case, the question then has to be asked, if you're interested in doing that, to what end, you know, because these relationships really don't work out. So when your borderline wants or needs or asks for space or just takes it, it's the beginning of the end. Or in a cyclical patterned way of slow devaluation to ghosting, it's the beginning of yet another end that isn't really, for a lot of people in patterned ways, an actual ending. This I would not consider to be like every time a borderline needs and wants space and does this slow devaluation to ghosting, is that a BPD relationship breakup? Well, the answer is often it's not. Sometimes it is. And you can't really know for a while. This puts people through a lot of anxiety, a lot of pain. People don't know what to do and people are really confused. And let me just remind you that if you're going through this now, you've been through this many times and you're not sure what to do, there's nothing you can do to help this person with BPD. Just stop what they're doing. But I'm definitely out here to work with you if you're interested in sessions so that we can talk about this in your own individual situation, where I can help you understand it more deep, strategize with you about whatever your goal is. Do you want that person to contact you again? Are you still wanting to pursue this? Or are you looking for a way to cope with what is right now and to more or less start on a path of healing and recovery so that you won't keep wanting to go back? Or if this is the first time, it's a good time to catch it really and to put a stop to the cycles that could evolve. So, and when your BPD girlfriend, this can happen with a wife or a husband, by the way, but when your BPD girlfriend, usually untreated, or could be a wife, could be a husband, could be a boyfriend, when they say they need the space or they just take the space, and like I said, some people will know these patterns with their person with BPD, and some people are going through this for the first time. They will have likely shown you some subtle or covert signs that he or she is or has entered what I would refer to as a slowly progressing devaluation that will lead to ghosting. Her engulfment anxiety is at a fever pitch. She's not consciously aware of what she's feeling or why. She will assume her stress and anxiety and all her discomfort and her dysregulated emotion, her need to push you away, her need for space is the engulfment anxiety of the push and the push-pull of these relationships with people with BPD. In all of her stress and anxiety, she will assume that you're the one creating this for her. But you're not. It's just they just don't have enough awareness, any awareness really at all if they're untreated, as to what they're feeling and why. So they blame the person closest to them. So please know it's not your fault. And if it is a repeating triggered emotional dysregulation, whether it's the first time or repeating, please know, like I said, it has its root. And people with BPD's primal wounding in childhood, and perhaps some other things that they haven't proven yet. But so you might be wondering, what is slowly progressing devaluation that leads to ghosting? A person with BPD can be struggling inside with high inner conflict and anxiety, experiencing her own kind of cognitive dissonance, but not in any aware way of what that might be about. It's like when the borderline gets into the, I want you, don't leave me, or I'm starting to feel like I hate you, but don't leave me. That's the avoidance phase. It's also, they'll be feeling that and the opposing get away closer. In other words, get away, like right now, but don't go too far and just get away closer. How do you interpret that message? But it's like, get away, but don't go all the way away and still be kind of close, even though they're pushing you away. And they're not consciously aware of this, and she's entering into a major avoidance phase. The borderline wanting and needing or just taking space, patterned repeated ghosting, or it might be your first time, where they need space, is a slow progression to the devaluation split that leads to ghosting. And you might wonder, what do I mean by slow progressing devaluation that leads to ghosting? If you want to know more about that, keep watching my website, ajmahari.ca. I'm going to have a lot more in-depth information coming. But if you want to, purchase a book, a session, or more with me, we can definitely get into what am I talking about here. This is in-depth. This is unique, basically, information. And it can help. It helps my clients vastly to sometimes be able to change course and learn that this is the time that you need to start coping and working on your own healing recovery. And for others, they still want to get that X, or not quite X, but the ghosting borderline back. Whatever it is, wherever you are, whatever you're trying to work out, I can help you immensely not only understand what a slow progressing devaluation to ghosting is and how that could be a repeated pattern. And what does that mean? What can you expect? If you want to try to get back in touch with them or wait it out, I can definitely support you, help you, hear you, and give you a lot of education around what's really happening for them and what you might be able to do to affect, if it's your goal, trying to get back with them again. I don't recommend that, but people have to go through what they have to go through, and people are still invested in what they're invested in. So just know, if you want to know more about the slowly progressing devaluation to ghosting, be happy to work with you on one-to-one sessions to explain that to you more and have you really come to understand that, and the repeated pattern that this can be also slowly progressing devaluation to ghosting, coming back and then doing the same thing again, and why. And the reality is you can't do anything about it, because it's up to the person with BPD to get into treatment to be able to work on this as well. So again, if you want to book sessions with me at ajmahari.ca on this specifically, please feel free. I would be more than happy to educate you further and help you to cope with whatever part of this slowly progressing devaluation to ghosting that you're experiencing, have experienced, it's your first time, or it's a repeated pattern, and you really just need some support and you need to understand more. And how can you cope with it if you're still invested in wanting to get them back? And what would that strategy look like? So all that and more, if you'd like to purchase, book sessions with me, and we can absolutely delve into this deeply in your personal situation. So the borderline wanting, needing, or just taking space, pattern repeated ghosting in many people's cases with BPD. And sometimes it's the first time, and sometimes it doesn't become a pattern. It kind of is the beginning of the end, and then you don't know, was that your final ghosting? Was that a discard? It's very difficult to cope with. So that's why I also recommend, if you're needing support and help, please reach out, purchase sessions. I'd be happy to work with you, because when people are in these situations, they need a lot of support. And even people that have loving family and good friends, they don't really understand. And I've had so many clients tell me over the 33 years I've been working with clients, and even clients recently, I've blown through all my friends and family, which doesn't mean they're not still their friends and family, but they just really can't hear you talk about that person one more time. Well, what I have to offer, besides 33 years of experience, helping you to understand this, helping you to learn coping techniques and whatever your goals are to help you on that, with those goals and healing and recovery, I also can be that listening ear that you can repeat yourself as much as you need to with me. And so that, I think, is another valuable thing that I offer, because people that you're telling this to in your life, seeking support and understanding, they don't understand and they get worn out. I promise you I won't wear out on you. I'm very practiced and skilled at working with clients who do need to say things over in many different ways and asking questions and trying to understand more. It's just part of the process. Whether your goal is to do some healing work for yourself, primarily turning that way, or that, and how are you going to get this person back? So not all devaluation splits happen rapidly. Not all borderline devaluation splits, it's like 1 second or overnight, that can happen, but they're not all that quick, and they're not all that decisive or seemingly decisive. They're really reactionary. But some can really present this slowly progressing devaluation to ghosting in the name of, it's called, they say, I just need some space. This is another sign, really, that you're dealing with somebody with BPD, if you weren't sure. Many people know that already. So a key thing when this is happening, this slow progression to the devaluation split that leads to ghosting, that is the borderline saying or just taking space. I need space. I need 2 days. I need a week. I need 2 weeks. I need 2 months. And when they take this space, by the way, it's going to lead to a ghosting for whatever period of time. Like I said, some are patterned, some not, because they are engulfed. They have engulfment anxiety. And sometimes they will come back and the same things will happen in patterned ways, as I said. But often they're going to not be able to be alone or need more from, because they're seeking identity through other, right? Through you. So they might, in that 2 weeks to 2 months, they might be on those dating apps doing other things. And then even if they come back your way, it's added betrayal. it's added extra painful difficulty. And most people who are in or were in a relationship with someone with BPD have codependency and often blame themselves. So it's really important not to blame yourself. Easier said than done, though. The borderline needing space, the slow progression to devaluation, a slow devaluation, and ghosting has nothing to do with you. There's nothing you can do to stop it, and there's nothing you did to cause it. But it's really painful, anxiety producing, and extremely confusing for people. So you can't stop it. And like I said, it's exceedingly painful, and it will cause immense stress, distress, anxiety. And you really do need professional support to navigate this. So I'm out here to work with you, help you through it, and further explain it as you might well be experiencing this slow devaluation to ghost to. Yes, it can lead to discard, but it's so hard to know, is this the breakup? Is this a discard or not, right? So I think it's really helpful. I know I have a lot of clients who benefit from working with me at this juncture because you don't know what's going to happen next. But you need to learn how to cope with that because this has people, not being able to work, not sleeping, not eating, sometimes turning to alcohol or other substances because this is exceedingly painful and confusing. So the beginning of the end when a borderline taking space is this a breakup, right? Well, sometimes yes, post-op. But you can't know that at the time. And often it's not really a breakup necessarily, but it definitely is a slow beginning to an end of the relationship cycles, but this might not be the end, right? It's really hard for people to know what's going on. There's not all people with BPD are the same. Some are never coming back after this slow devaluation split to ghosting. Some will, and then do it again, and then come back, and then do it again. So people need to learn a lot more about this on a one-to-one basis. What's happening in your life with that person with BPD? I can help people so much when I know all the details and the relationship history, the patterns of the person with BPD. What is the relationship in general, which often there's a lot of common themes for people, but there's always really important individual relationship dynamics and what your person with BPD is like, because they're not all the same. This is the beginning of the end in a way for most people, and it might take quite a while to get to that breakup endpoint. But when a borderline is taking space, it can often be full stop, the end for them. But you can't know that. Sometimes, no, it isn't that. But it will be the beginning or continuation of on-off cycles, and the relationship will continue to cause you more pain. And untreated borderlines cannot engage in or cooperate in any attempts of reparations. And I'm going to have some information coming at ajmahari.ca that will explain that more in depth. But the borderline cannot engage in or cooperate in any attempts of reparation. Why is that? And let me add, and trying to drag them to couples counseling only really exacerbates the situation and has a tendency for everything to blow up. And I don't recommend couples counseling with an untreated person with BPD when they have this maybe pattern cycle. Maybe this is the first time you're experiencing it. Might be a pattern. They might be gone. It's hard to say. But the slow progression to devaluation to ghosting, that's not the time. If you hear from them again and you're starting to recycle the relationship again, that's not the time for couples counseling. You need to be in your own healing recovery journey, like I'm out here to work with you, as I've said. And they need to go get their own treatment. So you really can't help the borderline because they don't have the emotional, if they're untreated especially, but even if they're not successfully well enough treated, whatever that might mean, it's not the same thing for everybody with BPD either. But you can't really help them because all your efforts and attempts to make it okay, you might even end up apologizing to them and you didn't do anything. You really can't help the situation. You might be able to get them, they might come back and be in touch with you. They might, you can recycle the relationship, as I said, but it's nothing that you can really control. And that's really difficult for people with codependency. That, well, if I can't control, like I'm out of control, I'm not hearing from them, what am I supposed to do with myself? And then there's the rumination and the obsessing and the cognitive dissonance in a world of hurt. What you need to do is seek expert help. And I'm out here to give that to you and to work with you. So like I said, I work with people going through this, all phases and iterations of these relationship patterns and cycles with people with BPD. And I can help you to process what's happening, how you feel. We can identify your individual person with BPD's patterns in ways that will help you to choose how to strategize as to whether or not you can get your person with BPD to re-engage or recycle, which sadly is only going to really elongate your pain in the long run and your suffering. And it won't really make for a healthy relationship either. But still, a lot of people just, especially with codependency, don't know how to let it go. You're still believing this is the person of your dreams. You're still kind of in love with who you thought they were. It's very complicated. And the most important part of this process is you learning, when I work with clients, right, is you learning more about your individual person with BPD and working toward your own coping and moving deeper into a healing and recovery journey of focusing on you and how you can heal to move on. And many people start working with me when they're not ready to move on, right? And that's fine. And I respect people's goals. But if you're willing to sort of look at like what you need to cope, how you're going to deal with this situation, what's going to happen, that often leads people into starting a little bit of focus on themselves and working in the process the way I work with clients. Then they might start working on their own healing recovery. But it doesn't mean that at that juncture, you're not maybe still wanting that person back, which is fine, which I don't judge and I don't tell people what to do. So there's so many iterations of things happening out there, and I'm going to have so much more coming. Everybody that's with somebody with BPD, you are an individual person, even if you don't know yourself as well as you think you do emotionally, if you have codependency. And each person with BPD, even though there are common themes, they are vastly different too. Don't forget, there's over 256 symptom combinations within borderline personality, and no one person with BPD is going to have all of those. And so one person with BPD can do this so slow split to devaluation and ghosting, and the next person might do it really differently, and one might really be done, and many aren't. So this is a complicated nature of being ghosted by a borderline that asks for and wants space, which usually there's some covert or subtle signs that they've been distancing more from you over time, but not always, because they see other people with BPD could just like from one night of getting together, physical intimacy, watching a movie, having dinner, everything's great, cuddling, boom, the next day, everything's changed for them and they're out of there. It's engulfment anxiety and they don't know what it is. And even if you understand it more, there's nothing you can do to stop it. These are their, I don't want to say but these are their internal repetition compulsion cycles that are in their unconscious. And it's not your fault. But there's going to be so much more coming at ajmahari.ca. And then, even with that information, so much more in depth, as I am an educated person. I have had the inside experience, but I didn't have but about 4 traits of BPD, really, and I was labeled. So I don't have the experience of a lot of the more severe people with BPD and what they're doing. But, who have like 7, 8, 9 traits, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 traits. The core issues that drive this approach avoidance conflict in the many ways it does, the push-pull in these relationships. And the push away really triggers people with codependency. So I'm going to be delving much more into a lot of this at ajmahari.ca. And of course, if you want to book and purchase sessions with me, I'm right here to help you now. You can fire as many questions at me. You can tell me the whole scenario of your experience. Tell me more about the person with BPD in your life. I have 33 years worth of experience of doing this, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very patient and empathic. And you won't wear me out no matter how many times you have to tell me certain things over and over again, because you're in incredible pain and distress. This is just one introductory new concept type of way of going a little bit deeper, that when the BPD girlfriend or boyfriend, but the BPD girlfriend wants space, it's a slow split to devaluation and ghosting. And it has all, for many with BPD, they're going through their own type of cognitive dissonance without any conscious awareness. And they are really between that, I'm not sure if I like you anymore, but don't leave me, and the getaway closer. And what are you supposed to do with this message? Because they render you helpless, because you can't stop what's happening for them. You can't talk to them when they're in this push away of incredibly feeling inside engulfment anxiety, and that's when they push away. That's when they are avoidant. And I'm not talking about attachment styles here, by the way. It's talking about the patterns that in one way or another, to one extent, one extreme or another, are expressed by everybody with BPD, and especially untreated, but of course not. They're not all the same. It doesn't always mean the same things, because if you're thinking about this, you want to know more, like I said, purchase a book at sessions with me. We can deal with this. You can understand more. We can strategize whatever your goals are to the best that we possibly can as you tell me more about your own individual situation and the borderline in your life. So we don't want to talk about all borderlines do this and all, no, we want to get right into what's going on with the person that you're in love with or relating to or wanting to be the person of your dreams as you thought they were, but right now you might not be sure what's going on. So it's really important to know that out there's a lot of information that basically in many different ways people are repeating things. I have a lot more coming, and there is such a thing as a slow split to devaluation and ghosting. And they need and they ask for space, because unlike other people with BPD who just, boom, they're gone the next day after a really nice, close evening, night, their engulfment anxiety can be manifested and experienced in many different ways. But it is not a good sign when your borderline girlfriend, it could even be your borderline wife, your borderline boyfriend, your borderline husband, when they start asking for space, that's a really big red flag for you. And you'd be best off to work with someone like myself, an expert in this area. Start now, because let me reiterate, when people work with me, I don't control what you want. I don't control you. I help you to look at everything and understand it more in depth. And then if you're still interested in trying to get back with your ex, I respect that. I might give you a couple of caveats about it and say, hey, be aware of this, be aware of that. But we can work through that. I've worked with many people as they do re-engage a borderline who's done this, whether it's quick or not, or the slow split to devaluation and ghosting, whether it's patterned, whether it's the first time, whether it's happened and you haven't heard from them now for like several months, or all of these different iterations. I just want you to know I'm out here to support you, and I'm out here to help you. And that comes with all my expertise and 33 years experience, but it doesn't come with me telling you what you need to want or how you should feel or what you need to do. I will sometimes have conversations with clients. I will discuss these things. But at the end of the day, in any session work with me, it's what you want. It's what your goals are that rule the day. Because not all people with BPD just instantly, the switch flips and they instantly devalue, split to devaluation, ghost, and or discard. It's not always that clear at all. Just as surviving a BPD relationship breakup is a very confusing notion for many people, because every time a person with BPD wants space, for example, and is going through this slow split to devaluation ghosting, or does it overnight really quickly, you can't know if that's your final discard. So how are you going to figure that out? I can help you to understand and look for the signs and periods of time that it's reasonable to kind of like wait and see perhaps, or if there's other strategies based on how your individual person with BPD is, whether they're approachable or not. because often most in these avoidant phase pushaways aren't. But the fact is, so often many people with BPD, I don't want to give too much false hope here, but many people with BPD, whether it's a quick, instantaneous seeming split to devaluation and ghosting, and or is that a discard? It might be, but it might not be. And the slow split to devaluation and ghosting, that is the I want space borderline. No matter which it is or anything in between, everybody with BPD is different. And what it really means, you can really learn more by working with me to tell me more about who this person with BPD is individually in your life, who they are as an individual, despite some common patterns they may have with others with BPD or not, because they're not all the same. And the other thing is, so you can't really know if a split, whether it's fast or slow, to devaluation, to ghosting, or to I need space, which is similarly the same, but a different version of it, can't really know if that's your BPD relationship breakup or not. And so then it's really up to you to think about, it might be, and you might have no control over it, but how do you know? And how do you figure that out? And the other thing is, how do you cope with that if that's the case? Versus if you make a choice to pull away now because maybe this has happened to you like multiple times, and you're just getting to the point where you can't function and you're obsessed with this and it's on, off. This is so stressful for people, and yes, it also affects people's physical health. Much more information coming, and if you, like I said, I'm sorry for repeating myself. If you want to book sessions with me to understand this more, when a BPD girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, or husband, or sibling, or parent, or adult child, when they want space, it's a slow split to devaluation and ghosting that could be final or might be patterned. And it has all to do with engulfment anxiety. And people with untreated BPD do not know at all how to engage or to even listen to suggestions about reparation. So you really don't get anywhere in trying to explain your experience to the person with BPD who is in your life, or if they were, or you're not sure. So it's really important that I welcome people to, I think people think that they have to know this or that for sure. I welcome you to work with me at any stage of this, because it's not like if you come and we're talking in a session and you tell me what's happening, it's not like all I'm going to say to you is you need to leave that person and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm really there to hear what you have to say, what you're going through, to help you with learning more in depth about this, because there's a lot that's said online. A lot of stuff is really good. It's helpful, without a doubt. But it doesn't go to this deeper level of how I work with clients and the information products coming to ajmahari.ca.
You've been listening to the Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup Podcast with your host, counselor and trauma recovery coach, ajmahari. To purchase and book sessions, visit ajmahari.ca.